Welcome to Infusion 20, our first virtual Infusion event. We're pleased to have you. My name is Mike Pacheco. I'm the Innovation Product Manager here at McElroy. I'm responsible for all McElroy's digital products, notably the Data Logger and the McElroy Vault. But today, I get the opportunity to tell you all about the new iSeries TracStar user interface. We're excited to debut the iSeries at Infusion 20, and as you follow along, I think you're going to see why. So let's get started. So we have a lot to cover today. So with that, I'm going to walk you through what you're going to see. So first, we're going to dive into the controls layout. So you get a general idea of location and likely some new verbiage you haven't heard before. Then we'll dive into the data logger and how it is now integrated with the TracStar iSeries. Then new keypad functionality. And along with that, some gained efficiencies that the TracStars now have. Then we'll dive deeper into the fusion controls of the machine, and then move over to the vehicle side and talk about the vehicle console and the new service interface. And then finally, I'm going to talk briefly about some software updates and how that is going to function with the new iSeries. So let's get started. As you've seen from the main stage presentations, here is the new iSeries TracStars. In this case, we're looking at a TracStar 900i. So first, to help orient around the machine, I'm going to refer to this as the vehicle operator side, or you'll hear me say vehicle operator console. And this is where we've allowed room for fittings and other fabrication work, and that's why we built a flip-up style console, which I'll go into shortly. So here you can see the carriage operator console. And this is where the data logger tablet will be mounted, along with all the other carriage controls. And I'm going to start on this side. So starting with the new carriage controls. First thing that you will notice is a very clean and simple layout. We really focused on how operators use our equipment controls, and then we included features that they would appreciate. The controls have been intentionally set in the same position as the previous carriage controls. So let me take a moment, and I'm going to do a quick overlay of the Series 2 TracStar 900. And in this case, it really demonstrates exactly the layout, and you can see the movable jaw controls to the right. You can see the fixed side controls and the indexer controls over here to the left. And then you have fusion controls in line with the cylinder. This is going to allow for a seasoned operator to retain that muscle memory and move to the same location for carriage control easily. So zooming in, we're going to start from right to left. So first, you're going to see a 2x4 button keypad. This keypad controls your movable side clamping cylinders, the top jaws. There's an engine start stop, a new hydraulic lock button, a facer on off, and a new operator confirmation button, which I'll go into more detail shortly. Now, the data logger has a dedicated mounting location, has a rugged cradle that's set on an adjustable swivel, and it easily gets into a viewable position for any operator. The tablet's still easily removed, so you can take those setup photos or take a photo of the job site conditions or any completion photos. And this is where we have a new proportional carriage valve, and that's where it's located, and it's recessed into the panel with safety in mind. And then we've also included a prominent e-stop at this location, should you need to shut down quickly. The console itself is also on a pivot, and that is height adjustable. So here, showing you the easy to use ratcheting lock system. And this will also allow with this ratchet that you can tuck it underneath the carriage cylinder for additional storage. Moving over to the left, this is where you will see the fixed side clamp cylinder control and the upper jaws. as well as your indexer controls. There's a heater in-out and a facer in-out and a proportional indexer control. So like that carriage valve, it is also recessed into the panel. And then just below that, we have the pipe lift controls. So moving back out, the two keypads have built-in palm rest. They're thin enough to grasp easily in the hand, and they've also been coated with a durable plastic coating, which really reduces the glare and aids in a comfortable hold. These keypad mounts are also adjustable with easy-to-use thumb screws. So the user can adjust for their preferences. It can rotate flush up against the jaw for a tighter configuration for transport or in-ditch operation. And I think this view really demonstrates just how clean the user interface is and how hard this team worked to provide this additional clearance. And it's going to benefit operators in the field. And you can see that with them tucked under here in line with that jaw. So let's talk a little bit more about in-ditch operation. So our suggestion will be to rotate it into the ditch from the back side of the carriage first, but the keypads can also be removed easily, so the carriage can be safely moved in ditch or rotated around the pipe from the front side in those really difficult scenarios. And there's no chance to damage the controls. They're easily reinstalled with minor hand tools. And there's simple plug and play electrical connections, and there's absolutely no reprogramming. This just adds to the versatility of this machine. Now, let's dive into that data logger. So during the development post INFUSION20, we knew we wanted one device that could seamlessly move between our current offerings and the new iSeries equipment seamlessly. Well, that required some exciting development work to make possible, and it led us to release the new Data Logger 7. So this new data logger allows fleet owners and operators the ability to maintain one platform of data loggers and not multiple devices. Nor does it limit us to built-in devices that will age and then must be retrofitted as technology changes. So the Data Logger 7 has built-in functionality to communicate to the iSeries CAN network platform. This is a first of its kind. The beauty of this setup is that we've provided all of this functionality in the same software package. So there's only one application for standalone data logger, and that same application will work with the iSeries. So when the Data Logger 7 is connected to an iSeries machine, this functionality simply wakes up and it works. So the new Data Logger tablet has one port on the back that allows operators to connect very easily to both a standalone Data Logger pressure transducer. Then when they need to, they simply disconnect that cable and then they move it over to an iSeries TracStar. We've also configured the cables so that it allows us an additional benefit here. So the iSeries TracStar will allow a constant charge through this connection. So there's no worries about battery life or additional cables that are needed to keep the tablet charged. So moving back to the whole operator console. So let's talk about the new proportional control valves and keypads. Early on, we heard our users tell us that if we're changing the valves, it needs to feel right. And we worked hard to make sure that they gave the users that finite control of carriage position that's needed, especially when you're aligning pipe, facing pipe, and making adjustments. The early feedback has been great with how easy this carriage is to align pipe. And I'm excited to get more operators using this and experiencing it firsthand. The CAN keypads also add to this new user experience. So not only from a rugged and reliable interface, but the LED backlights allow us to use colors and visual effects to aid in additional guidance during the fusion process. And the programmability allows us to find safer and more efficient ways to operate the machine. But let me give you a quick example of what I mean. So notice here we have that hydraulic lock button. So we built in this new hydraulic lock function. So when an operator needs to clear out ribbons or chips from the carriage so they can engage that lock, reach in, safely remove them. So what you'll notice is immediately everything turns red, except for the engine start stop and the hydraulic lock button itself. This indicates you can still turn the machine off, and the green flash and visual effect on the button draws the user to your attention that this has been engaged. So to disengage, you simply hold that button down for 3 seconds and the carriage is safe to operate. There's also some customization that we can perform. So for example, the facer on-off button can be used as a one press on and one press off mode, or a press and hold mode, depending on your local requirements. And this is easily changed in the settings. And here we're looking at the movable jaw side keypad. And I've already mentioned a few of these: the engine start stop button, the new hydraulic lock button, facer on off, and then this confirmation button. So the check mark, that's the new operator confirmation button. So once again, thinking with safety in mind, when the operator requests any automatic movements in a fusion mode, we're going to require a confirmation before the carriage moves. So this button will light up green with a flashing LED pattern, and it's going to draw the user to that button. Once pressed, it's going to activate. So here we're showing whenever we interact with the data logger, ask for movement, you get that flashing green light saying, okay, this needs to be confirmed before the carriage moves. And once you select that, the action will be performed. There's also an audible alarm alerting you that the carriage is about to move. And we looked at common job site efficiencies that operators perform, but have to be trained and then remember to do it, like when facing. And especially when they want to face at the lowest possible pressure, then they open the carriage and clean the chips out of shavings. One common practice is to shift to a higher fusion pressure, open the carriage, clean them out, close in that same higher pressure, then shift back to facing pressure. So obviously there's some risk here, but there's some efficiencies gained. So now we've built that into the process without the need for the operator to remember any steps, and it's so natural to use. So here I have a video. I'm going to play it for you and show you exactly what I mean. So here you can see me opening the carriage, and I have full speed. I can get the facer wherever I need it. I can move the carriage, and I'm not changing anything. There's no valves to change. And as soon as I turn on that facer button, you see the data logger screen, it takes over. And that's what you see as a facing pressure. And what's happening is that pressure is only in the applied mode. So only in the closed position is that pressure being applied. If I need to back up, I actually have full pressure to back up. So it's simply in the closed position. Turn the facer off, I have full speed again. It's right back. And you can see that here in the video. And then again, turn that on, and here I backed it up further just so you can see it a little bit more dramatically, but it's being closed, it's very close, so it's very safe. So I don't have any concern also about damaging my facer. And it's very easy to use. Turn that on, and then whenever I'm done, I simply hit the back button to get out of the screen whenever I'm done facing, and I go on. Really exciting feature that is just so intuitive to use, and a lot of operators will appreciate. So in the iSeries, this also has a new collision avoidance system. So with the sensor technology that we've included, we can now detect conflicts and stop them before problems occur. So we focused on preventing damage, but not limiting operators' ability to get the job done. So anytime a conflict is observed, we can use those LED backlights and flash them red in the keypad, so to alert the operator, as well as you'll get a pop-up notification on the data logger screen. We're excited to bring this functionality to the new TracStars, saving you costly repairs and lost time. Okay, now we're going to turn to the fusion controls. When we started this development, we asked ourselves a few questions, two of which were, how can we get operators up to speed and operating more consistently than operators using our equipment today? And how can the data logger do more repetitive tasks and be more integrated with the actual operation of the machine? And we looked at two of the most trained topics, measuring drag and shifting properly. And we designed them to be effortlessly performed by the machine. But we also want you to retain enough control so you can fine tune or adjust as needed. And that's a major theme that you'll notice with the iSeries. So we wanted to be sure that we didn't take anything away from them that they needed, but we improved their experience with the iSeries. So choose as much control as you want. You, the user, gets to decide. So let's talk about that control. So when the data logger is connected to an iSeries TracStar, the Fusion Guide control system simply wakes up. So important to note, so to fuse pipe on the iSeries, you will need the data logger tablet. But to move the vehicle or operate the carriage, let's say for thinking the idea of maintenance, things like that, moving it around in the shop, data logger isn't necessary. It's just those fusion modes. And we're now calling that the Fusion Guide control system. So in this system, we have 3 selectable levels of control. So level 1 is what we refer to as manual control. Level 2 is an enhanced guided workflow. So we've taken the guided workflow of the data logger and just made it that much better and integrated with the machine. Level 3 is automatic fusion. So this concept of these 3 modes, among many other things I've already mentioned, really set the iSeries apart from all other fusion equipment. So never before has a fusion machine given an operator this range of control of the fusion process. So I'm going to explain those modes just a little further. So being a new concept, let's walk through the fusion process, and we're going to start with setup. So facing and aligning pipe require an operator. And as many as you know, there are nuances to getting the pipe in the machine, aligned, faced properly, and much of this is determined by the job or the scenario the operator is presented with. So because of this, we left this operation with the most control for the operator. So, and that's for all levels, level 1, level 2, and level 3, manual, enhanced guided workflow, and automatic fusion. So they control the facer on off, like you saw before. The facer pressure, this is going to pop up. You adjust the pressure to your desired pressure. And you have control of the carriage position. So you have control of your alignment. And that's what's important here. So that's for all modes. So that's what setup's going to look like. So you're going to do your setup in all modes and then move on to the next step. And remember what I said about measuring drag. We wanted that to integrate more with the machine. So we've added the most assistance to this step. The operator will start the drag measuring sequence with a simple push of a button. And during that drag measurement, the machine is also going to determine the meet point of the pipe interfaces. It'll perform a slip check for the operator. And it's going to do all of this in about 30 seconds. And there's no worry about skipping the step. It's built into the process and you're not going to get it wrong. Now, fusion. So let's dive into this. This is where we really start to see the different levels come into play. So I'm going to focus just on level 1 to start. And you can see a beat up in the fusion process. We have beat up, we have the heat soak, open close, and fuse cool. So for the beat up, the user is going to have the most control because you're controlling that proportional carriage valve, meaning you're controlling the position. So when you enter into fusion mode, it's going to be ready so that it goes up to fusion pressure. So as soon as you simply close the carriage, it's going to close at beat up pressure. And it's waiting for you. There is a button on the screen, and as soon as you select that, it's going to drop down to your heat soak, and that's your shift sequence. But remember, you still have it in the closed position. So let's say you're in a high drag scenario, you may want to leave it that way. Otherwise, you can choose to move it to the neutral position. The machine is going to know what state it's in, and then it's going to move to the next. It's going to say, are you ready to do your open close? You simply hit that, and that's the next shift sequence. And then you open, the heater comes out, and you close. What's important to notice for manual 1 is that you control the carriage. You control all the movement, And then thus you also control the time. So depending on your standard and the requirements there, especially regarding time, you're controlling all of these aspects. We didn't want to take anything away from the user. Moving on to level 2, remember this is enhanced guided workflow. No longer do you need to control the carriage movement. You're focused on controlling the actions. So enhanced guided workflow. So what it's happening is that it is indicating to you what the next step is. But when you're ready to select that, you'll simply hit a button. So all the high level decision is being made with you, the operator. Then the machine is going to perform all that low level execution. So what's important is that you control the time, you control that, but the machine's guiding you. You know where you are and you know where you're going. And it's guiding you step by step through that process and simply controlled by you with a push of a button. In level 3, automatic fusion. You've faced the pipe, you've prepped everything, you've loaded, you've put your heater in. All you have to do is start the process and the machine takes over. It's as simple as that. So again, those levels of control are manual control, enhanced guided workflow, or automatic fusion. So let's talk about that. Remember in level 1, you control carriage position and time. So there's times like a tie-in. The operator needs more control over the machine, or you have a high drag scenario. You need to keep the valve in the closed position. You have the capability to do this. Otherwise, the enhanced guided workflow, which is a great place to get started, is where you have the control over the time and you're being guided step by step through the process. All the high level decisions are with you, the operator, and the machine's going to do the low level execution the same way every time. Or let's say that we're pipelining and fusions repeatedly, or we're in a fabrication setting. Choose the automatic fusion mode. Let the machine do the work. That way the operator can then go and focus on other job site efficiencies. Why is this so important? It's safer, it's more efficient. We aren't removing the operator from the equation at all. We're allowing them to focus on other details so that they can be more efficient on the total job. But I've told you all about it. It's a big concept. It's a lot to take in. Let me show you a little bit. I'm just going to show you the level 2. And here you're going to see a video play and walk you through these steps. So first I have the data logger screen on the right so you can see that. So I'm entering fusion mode. I hit start, then you see that button flash. And now I've entered into fusion mode and it's just waiting for me. So I'm hitting the start speed up. I get to hit the confirmation button and then the machine closes. And it closes right up to pressure. What's important to notice and to orient around the machine is you know where you are. I'm in beat up mode. And then you see what's coming next. You can see in the lower right, it's what the request is next. The button's changed now to that start soak. So as soon as I'm ready, I'm gonna hit start soak. And there's my shift sequence. As easy as that. And it's gonna do it the same way every time. And now I'm in my heat soak. There's a couple things else to notice. I have times at the next, so I know exactly the time for the step that I'm in that's required. And that's going to depend on your standard, exactly what that looks like. But as soon as you're ready to start the open close, you press that, and then you hit the confirmation, because remember there's carriage movement. The carriage opens to a safe position, heater indexes, comes out, and then you're going to see it close. You also notice those red tick marks on the graph, and that's new. What's happening, because we have sensors, we know exactly where everything is. And we can mark exactly when open close started and we can mark when it ended. And so therefore we have an accurate depiction of the fusion process. That's how easy it is. And that's level 2, the enhanced guided workflow. Okay, now that we're done with that, let's turn back to the vehicle operator console. So remember I said the reason this flip up style is to allow clearance so operators can fuse T's and other fittings without removing the carriage. And here you can see that. You can see the clearance that we have allowed, and they've done a great job doing this. But it's also important because of that zone, an impact zone, that it be robust. And it's very rugged. It's built very well. But let's dive a little deeper into those controls. So just like the carriage operator console, this is a really sleek setup. So this 7-inch display allows us to provide a clean operator console. I think you can agree it really future-proofs the iSeries TracStars. So we have an e-stop on the top right, the key switch turns the vehicle on and off, and we have the display and proportional track controls. It's important to remember though, we still include a remote, and so they'll drive and track the unit around. And we know this is where the majority of operation will occur, but we also still focused on and made sure that those track controls really felt great because they're proportional. And this adds a layer of redundancy so you can move the vehicle as you need to. So let's zoom in here. So when a user starts up the machine, they're going to be greeted by a splash screen. And when you see it finish here, it's really pleasant. It'll be a surprise for some, but we went with a green display. And we wanted to follow the same design logic as the data logger. So we wanted to display those elements that are important to the operator. And we also wanted to allow for customization, but not complication. We also spent time focused on the impact of sunlight, and direct sunlight really washes out darker colors. So we built in a light and a dark mode. And this white background really stands out when you're in bright sunlight. So now let's dive into this dashboard. So we're working with a much larger screen, and it allows us to display more important details all in one place. It's like the dashboard of your car. And as I said earlier, we wanted a quick way to customize this dashboard without providing complications for the user. Meaning, we didn't want to send a user through multiple settings to get the view that they wanted. So with a quick swipe or left on those two main gauge pods, the user can change the information they want shown prominently, so for their liking. So first, we're going to come over and we're going to select this top menu button. What you'll see here is this brings up the user setting. So you have screen brightness, you have the language, other user preferences, pressure settings, and temperatures. You'll also be able to do all of this over on the data logger side as well. There's also some advanced settings here. So if I open up that advanced settings, what you're going to see here is first there's a GFCI mode. And this is going to depend on your local regulations. There's also that facer mode. Remember about pressing and holding or for a continuous mode or a momentary mode. You have that ability to do that here. So GFCI mode is really fantastic. Hear more about that. You can see the iSeries technical session with Greg Ruoff, Paul Donaldson, and they can tell you more about the new GFCI modes. So moving back out, at the bottom, you also see that we have a new ribbon. And this new quick access ribbon provides many of the functions, the vehicle functions, like first you can activate the lights. So when I select that, up come the lights, drive lights, work lights, or even beacons if that's necessary for you. Then we move on, you can turn your heater on and off. You enable your tracks and you can also adjust your track speed. And remember on the new TracStar iSeries machines, we've moved the pipe lifts to the vehicle side. So if the carriage is off, here you can still adjust your pipe lifts if you're doing maintenance or moving it around. And in this case, will be a TracStar 1200. We can also adjust the outriggers. And it comes with a really interesting feature. So one, it's always a view, what's the front, what's the left, what's the right. And so we've indicated that visually for you here. So you can easily adjust those. And if you're trying to move along, you can simply use that raise all button in the center there, raises them all, and you can move the machine. So from the beginning, we asked ourselves, how can we make servicing and troubleshooting and repair less complicated? And with this new control system, we're able to get so much more information out of this network. So let's dive into the service menu and go through some of that. So when I pop up the service menu here, first you'll notice very big, easy to use buttons. Again, remember we're trying to mimic a lot of the things that we've learned from the data logger 6 development. And here, whenever we talk about service reminders, like your car, it's time to get service done, we've built this into the new iSeries platform. And so when we click on that, you see it pops up. It's very clean. It's very easy to use. The current runtime that I have on that component or on this service and the time that I have remaining. And you can then, when you do it, it's easy to reset. And then it's also easy to adjust. So depending on the products that you use, if you use more of an extended life product, something like that, you can adjust that, or depending where you are in the world, you have that capability to make those finite adjustments. But something I'm actually really excited to tell you about, and I'm jumping into faults here, believe it or not. Instead of just presenting codes, I'm going to go into the active faults with a code, something like this, indexer control fault, SPN 520315. Well, good luck. So we wanted to build a better system, again, helping you service and maintain and troubleshoot these machines. So we want to take you to where the source of that fault and give you more information that's going to allow you to troubleshoot. So there's an additional layer here. So when I pop up the additional layer, what you see is you see that we have a description in human readable format. The indexer control is not reading correctly. The indexer is not able to move. Then we're going to give you those potential causes. So in this case, could be a 3-jaw carriage harness, the indexer paddle lever itself, or possibly connectors. And something I'm really excited about, we're taking it even further. And we're going to give you more information, in this case, the pinout and wire information. So this is on the carriage controllers. And then the pin 59 or A103, and it's white and purple. How easy does it get? And we're also going to tell you exactly what steps we've taken to ensure safety of the machine. So in this case, we're going to disable the indexer movement. You see all that here. So you get that, and now it's time. You're going to go troubleshoot. We've got to take another step further. So we back out of this. And what we've also built in are all of your inputs and your outputs in this display. So you're going to be able to go, let's say we're working on that fault, and we are able to get to those active inputs. So in real time, I can be observing what's going on the screen, and let's just say we want to adjust that paddle lever. So we can go see if that's the source of our problem, why our indexer won't move, and we can scan through and look at the list of these, and we can find that specific function, adjust it, and actually see, you'll see, on, and you'll see that what it returns to. So really excited for all that you have, all those capabilities that you have to help you service and maintain and get this machine operational. But you don't have to go into a menu to get all that. You will also have pop-up warnings that'll be displayed on this main dashboard, and it's going to take us directly to that fault. So, but we've also got something that's more interesting here. So in this example, because of multiple e-stops around the machine, what happens if somebody presses an e-stop on the other side, the operator didn't realize, and they need to go look for it. They can quickly see, and this is going to be on the data logger tablet itself. It'll be on the display on the vehicle side, and you'll be able to identify exactly which one is pressed. And so we're including more graphics and things that will take you to the source, so you don't have to go searching for it. So really exciting feature here. And then finally, the software updates. So the great thing about having the data logger as this main interface for the iSeries is the ability to perform over-the-air updates. So just like the process we already have established for the data logger software, we have functionality that we can take an over-the-air update through the data logger and update the controllers on either the vehicle or the carriage itself. It's really easy. It's an exciting thing, and the data logger is going to continue to update as it always has. So that is the new TracStar iSeries user interface. It's a completely reimagined experience, so more efficiencies, data logger integration, and an improved service capabilities. We're excited for the possibilities that this innovation is going to bring to the fusion industry. Looks like we are live. Brett, hello again.
Hello, Mike. Long time no see.
That's right. That's right. It has been an hour. Uh,
But they saved the best for last year, or
well, I don't know. I mean, we're just checking participation and seeing who won Infusion. So I don't know. We'll see how that shakes out.
all right. We do have some questions coming in.
Awesome.
So I know there's a lot of information that's unpacked in this session. So if we don't get to your question here beforehand during this, please reach out to Mike, myself, our inside sales team. We'll definitely get your questions addressed. So let's start off, Mike. So the first question I've got has to do with wiring. So if I understand the diagnostic capabilities, is it correct to assume that there is not a need to dig into wiring and components as I've had to do on current machines?
Sure. Yeah, it gets pretty deep. So it depends. But for the most part, when it comes to a wiring harness, and the reason we have broken them up in such a way so that if you need to replace a section, yeah, you're just going to take out that section of harness and replace with a whole new section, and trying to make it that easy. That way you're not troubleshooting. And now with this CAN network, troubleshooting is a little bit different. But if it's something obvious, you're going to be able to target. And again, with the messaging that we're providing to you through faults, we're trying to pinpoint and get you to that location, or at least those possible causes that it could be. Maybe something's disconnected, something along those lines. So it certainly depends, but yeah, the ease of repair in the field or in the shop is going to be drastically improved.
Yeah. It's it's been so simplified that even a sales guy can understand
it. That's right. Well, we'll find out, right?
We'll find out, won't we?
Yeah.
All right. So next question. When will the rolling machines be released?
That hasn't been committed yet. So stay tuned on the rolling. How about I'll leave it at that. So nothing committed yet. Focused on the TracStar.
There we go. Will the pop-up alerts warning be on the data logger as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, that is the beauty of, and I know this is somewhat of a newer concept, is this CAN network. But remember, what's happening is you have all of the sensors and devices talking back to that controller. And that's what's so great, is that when you're interacting, so that interface being the vehicle operator display over on the vehicle side and the data logger are really reading all of these messages that are out on this network. So if there is something, a pop-up warning message like that, it can be displayed on both. So we know your more limited operation is happening on the vehicle side, and then your data logger, where you're most of the time spending most of your time doing fusion, you're going to get that alert as well. So yes, and this is what this system provides for.
Okay, great. So this question is about the fuel. So does the fuel level show in hours? So I'm thinking there on the operator console control.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, and that's been brought up. Right now it shows a percentage, but there is a lot we are looking at I think where people are going with that is, what if I'm about to start an hour-long fusion? Do I have enough fuel left in it? So right. We are looking at interesting ways that we can step in and give an alert, say, you may be getting a little too close for the fusion you're about to perform. But yeah, we're looking at hours. It's really going to depend on how they're using it. We don't know if they're tracking it always, or if they're high idle, things like that may be going on. So it depends on use, and so that the value can fluctuate. So we're looking at it, but the good thing is we have a lot of capabilities with this, and we're gonna listen to our users, and we're gonna get that feedback. So
yeah, staying along that same path with that operator control. I mean, it is we can make changes. I mean, it is programmable to the operator's liking, or adjustments can be made.
Yeah, so there's going to be user settings and user preferences, right? Just like the data logger, that's what's built into the data logger now. And now this iSeries is going to have that capability as well. And the great, fantastic thing about this system is we didn't make it complicated to update those controllers and that logic. So as new features come out, just like in your data logger tablet today, you get an update message, and what you're really going to take advantage of are these new features. As we build and as we learn, we're going to include new features that benefit the users, and we can push that through the data logger directly to the controllers, and you immediately take advantage of them. So yeah, we'll be able to do that, live.
Okay, great. Let's talk inserts. So, questions been brought up about, will inserts be interchangeable between the iSeries and the older machines?
Yeah. So we talk a lot here about the evolution and that evolution of the TracStar, and we definitely keep in mind that anytime, this concept of a platform change, when we looked at the jaws, yeah, they're the same jaws. There's subtle differences, but they're going to take the same inserts. So yes, yeah, you're going to use your same inserts today. Much of the carriage configuration is the same, but those opportunities where we could, and that's what might go back. If you haven't watched Paul and Greg's walkthrough around the machine, and we took the best of the best and included it on this machine.
Right. All right. So let's talk standards. I guess back to the DL7.
Yeah.
What's standard included? I know we've got a lot of standards in there that customers have reached out to us on, domestic standards, international standards, and we can add standards as well, correct?
Correct. So as far as the iSeries goes, all of the standards that live in the data logger today are going to function with the iSeries. So what's happening is that data logger is sending those parameters over to the iSeries controllers, and the controllers are going to execute that the same way every time. That's the massive benefit here. So like I said, the data logger is really this high level guidance through the process and that high level decision making, right? And then when it needs to be executed, it sends it to those controllers, and those controllers execute it again the same way every time. So standards are you're passing those parameters along. So in full auto, it is fully compliant with the British standards. So
great. Okay. I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to throw it at you. Can you see a Series 2 carriage with the iSeries?
No, the amount of technology that's in there, so they're not compatible. So iSeries is in a league of its own. So.
Yep. Another standard question. So in the auto mode, is the iSeries a fully automatic machine as required by British standards?
Yes, it is. Yep, it's fully compliant. So just like our auto machine today, it's fully functioning as an auto as they would expect.
Yep. Very good. Okay, let's shift a little bit here. Let's talk about the e-stop. Assume I can still use e-stop as I have before to lock out machine if the safety does not like the hydraulic lockout.
Yeah, I know where they're going here. So yeah, so the hydraulic lockout. So we realize there are some national, the health and safety folks, depending on your location, may not like the functionality and have a nuance to that, even though we designed it to meet the standards that are available, and it does do that. We realize certain locations there may pose a problem. Yes, you can still use your e-stop to stop it, shut the engine down, perform the work you need to perform, restart it and continue back operating again. So you can use it that way if that's how you need to.
Okay, very good. Really good question here. I've heard the term CAN before, many times, in fact. Why is the specific type of network important, and does it simplify the design and or assure us of more reliable operation?
Yes, it does. So a couple things to talk about there is how it's functioning and what it's giving us and the capabilities that we now have is, again, all of the sensors, anything that it's interacting with, all of that information is being fed onto this network, controller area network, right? Network being key here. And it's all this information is living out there. So when we need to interface with that network and all of this information, that's how it all comes together and is presented to the operator, right? And so with the iSeries, we now have the ability to use more of the information, everything that's going on with the machine. And it's all right there. We can store it. We can do what we need to with it, and we can interact with it. To get more technical about it is, yeah, you're reducing your wiring. So you're not having point to point back to that control box that we're used to dealing with on our current equipment. Now everything goes to a controller, and you have much less. So, you have two wires going as opposed to multiple, and all the points that have to touch there and in between. It's what allows us to do this harnessing like we're doing today. And then again, back to that interfacing with it. And yeah, and the system in itself, CAN has been around. It's more than 25 years. It's in a lot of other industrial heavy construction equipment that is out on the same job sites that we're on as well. It's in automotive. This is highly proven gear that's out there. So, and we're taking advantage of it. We're taking advantage of the high volumes that exist. So when you think about, there are millions of these controllers out there in the world, and we're taking advantage of that on this equipment as well.
Right.
I'm pretty excited about that, if you can't tell.
We can tell.
Yeah.
I think you're ready to come through the screen like Eric.
I know. I'm doing my best, Eric Maddox there. Yeah.
All right. So along those same lines, if one of the buttons stops working, one, will it throw an error? And then two, how will the machine work?
Yeah. So yes, yeah, we're gonna notice that this button isn't working. We don't see this. It's not returning a value as we would expect. And I think you saw it on my example of the fault that would come through. Every fault, everything's gonna be a little bit different. But what we want to do is we want to tell you, yes, this is what we are observing, and it depends on what its function is, but we may then limit, and we're going to tell you that this is what we have limited because of this fault. Okay, so if we don't recognize this, and if some sensor is completely out of range and we cannot tell where something is, we may allow you to still move something and get where you need to get going, so you can do a repair or troubleshoot an issue, but you're going to be told these are the things we're limiting. We may limit fusion, right? So the job may not be able to proceed without a button or without a function. You broke a valve on a current machine. It's the same thing, right? You're going to get to that point anyways. And so it really depends on what it is, but we're also going to tell you exactly what we're going to limit. And it's just going to be, it's very dependent on what the problem may be. And the great thing, like if it's a button, it's an easily replaced service item. Again, a couple bolts, that keypad comes off. It's all pre-programmed when you get it, and you plug and play. It's truly as easy as it is.
Right. Along those same lines, if one of the buttons does go down, do the other buttons reflect in color, showing a function is down, or?
It's gonna depend. Most today, probably not. But what you're gonna get that warning on screen. So that's gonna be your real alert. And then depending on what it is, we may provide you an audible alarm as well. So again, it's so dependent on what the case may be.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. A year ago, McElroy showed the next gen product. With that, you showed us the Bosch engine controller that was really the brain of the machine. Is that type control being used here as well?
It is. And there's two of them. So there's one on the vehicle, and there's one on the carriage itself, and technically there's on the engine as well. And so that's where we're saying all of those that processing, everything is feeding. So everything to the vehicle is feeding to the vehicle controller. Everything on the carriage, then it's putting out on this network. And that's how these things are all communicating to each other. So we know exactly what's going on both sides. And then again, now your interface comes in, and that's how you're able to see everything that's out on the network. So yeah, well, those are the controllers that we are using. So very rugged, very proven.
Yeah. We've got a wiring harness question.
Okay. Yeah.
So, say the wiring harness gets damaged on a job or something. Can I repair it? Is it repairable? Let's talk about the wiring harness a little bit.
Yeah, kind of goes back to the question earlier. It's going to depend on what issue you have. So in some cases, maybe, but if it is extremely damaged, again, we're gonna push you to replacing the harness, and it's why we've broken it down into so many sections. That's why we've used common wiring systems on 630i, the 900i, the 1200i. So we're making this high availability of components. Again, a lot of being able to use across the platform. So it's going to depend. It's a little hard to answer into every detail that you may run across. You may be able to. Otherwise, you replace it, and it'll be that easy.
Okay, very good. So we've got about 2 minutes left for submissions. Before we close the submissions, please get your submissions in on questions, and we'll go from there. So, Mike, back to the data logger. Will the graph be included for the automatic fusion mode?
That is what we're planning that today. As it depends where you're at within that automatic world. Some don't have it if you're ever using our current ones today. But as we see this moving into other markets, yes, we have now with the Data Logger 6 we like that graph. It tells us so much. So we're planning on it for the automatic. So today, absolutely, you're going to see exactly what's going on with the machine. I cannot wait till people get to sit in front of it and see what more information they now have. So not only do you see where you have been, you're actually seeing where you're going. And so that is what, again, this guided workflow concept, even in automatic mode, you're going to see what the next step is. You're going to have countdown timers. You're going to know exactly what's going on and where you're at, and ensure everything is to standard as necessary. So,
all right. So let's see. A follow up to the controller question. Sure. Assume reliability is really solid, like the ones in my truck.
Yeah. 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 Assuming, I mean, that's what it is. We're using these controllers that are in the millions out in the world, and it is just very, very reliable devices. So
as long as you don't drive a Ford, right? I mean,
yeah, I know it's I know exactly how we are, but yeah, definitely, they're very reliable. So
yeah, very reliable. All right, let's see. Say the machine is on a job and it goes down. Is there going to be a part number where you can send all the electronics in? Let's see, that one section and its plug-in. Let's see, it's kind of a difficult question here. Let me repeat it again. Machine is on a job. It goes down. Is there going to be a part number where you can send just, I think, all the electronics in? So, essentially not singling out certain electronics. It'd be one whole function of all the electronics used on the machine. So something I don't think we really thought of yet, probably.
Yeah, it'll depend. Let me back up a little bit from that. There's so much we can do here, right? We're going down the path of, when we look at our messaging, and it's no small task. It's very involved and very tedious. What could happen? Where is that located, right? How can we get you to the point? How can we help you troubleshoot what's going on with this? So we're focused on that. And certainly to that next step, we'd love to be able to tie that back and say, here's what it could be. How can we get you more information so you can contact a channel partner, get on the parts finder and locate that part? Or yeah, it'd be great if we can just send it over and next thing you know, it's on a truck headed your way. That is the future of where we're going. We have so many capabilities and we are interested in all of them. Anything that's going to make the user experience that much better. That's what we're interested in, and that's what this platform provides for.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday out when we were around one of the machines, just the capability around that data logger and what the future could hold about with the operator interaction just through that. So a lot more to come with that. So let's see. The questions keep coming.
All right.
So
I got all day.
Still have your voice, so we're good.
Yeah.
Is the mode level of assistance something I can lock down? Can I keep new operators in guided workflow?
Yeah, we are definitely looking at that. So you come out, you see the machine today. We're leaving it pretty open right now just so we can work through everything. But we definitely see a place and a time where that setting will need to be made more of a supervisor authority. And yeah, again, that's something that's more built into the data logger, what they're able to access there. And we do have a lot of controls already today, and we definitely see that coming into play.
Okay. Question here in terms of like the components again, and I know a lot of it's plug and play. So if something went wrong, if something went wrong, it's pretty much really easy to go in and just take that part out.
Yeah.
We plug in a new one and keep going.
Yeah, that was one of the things early on. As we roll this out, we don't want to have this intricate network of mechanics that have to go out and upload software and manage all this. So we invested a lot of time and effort into pushing those updates through the data logger on that whole platform that we have available today, and getting it out to the controllers. But then when you move out and you get into some of the components that have programming, so let's talk like keypads. So if we damage a keypad, and again, you a few bolts, you put a new one on, and you pop it back on, it's plug and play, you're back up to operational. From a user perspective, you don't have to do anything, right? Plug and play operation, no reprogramming, nothing like that. You turn it back on and it functions. And any other components throughout, we're expecting, no programming or anything that a user is going to have to worry about. So,
okay. Yeah. Let's see, a couple more here. What is the runtime of the vehicle from a fuel perspective?
That's still to be determined. So we are working, and again, it's really going to depend on how it's being used. What I'll say about fuel consumption, and again, when we get and you get in front of it, you'll actually be able to hear it. We have so many opportunities that whenever we need that higher RPM, we'll make that call, and that's what the engine is going to do. And when that demand goes away, it's going to lower again. The operator doesn't have to do anything. So we are constantly looking to optimize that fuel consumption in the vehicle. I think it's a really good question. More testing and development. I'm sure Paul Donaldson or Greg could really get into the details and provide some estimates, but use is going to play into that. But we're concerned about it, and we're putting in some intelligence to allow the operator less noise and better fuel consumption through its operation.
All right. Couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up. So, does the hydraulic cylinder manifold get replaced with an automated system?
No. This whole system, and that's the important part. Throughout everything, those different modes of operation are now built into every iSeries. It's what mode that fits for you, that you make that selection in the data logger. The machine performs the same way. There's no one machine that's different. It's all on the same platform now. So, and I think that'll be good. I'll continue on with that, Brett, and we'll wrap there. But I think that is the concept here, and I think that's what everybody needs to leave with this is that just let's start with a data logger and everything we learned right through 3 years of the data logger 6. For those using the data logger 6, going to a data logger 7, we want it to be a seamless platform. There's nothing that an operator, it's going to be so familiar with them. There's nothing that they're going to have to go and learn how to do more. It's going to be effortless. Then take that same thing when you go to the iSeries. Now you have the same familiar platform, right? You have that muscle memory. It's why we put things in certain locations. That's why the data logger 7 is so familiar to the data logger 6. And so we can build out a platform that makes it so easy for our operators to move between legacy equipment and to the new iSeries. And then we get to see where this takes us into that next evolution, right?
Yeah, outstanding, Mike. Great job. So that's it for questions. No more from me. So I just, again, thank you, Mike. Great job. And I mean, the iSeries, you can see from Mike how excited we are about the iSeries here as part of our fleet now. It's an incredible machine. So we're looking forward to getting them in the field. Right, Mike?
Absolutely. Excited.
Yeah. Any final words you want to say?
Boy, I said it all. Let's get people here. Let's get this thing out on a job. That's the next big move. So
Agreed.
we're excited. We're ready to listen.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Thank you everybody for joining us very much.